Hey everybody, Ben from the Bonehead podcast, and welcome to Blood Bowl Setup's Khorne formations. So the Khorne team, or the Demons of Khorne team, are one of my favourite teams in Blood Bowl. Now, it's a really interesting team. Okay, you've got the Bloodthirster, which is by far and large the most powerful and terrifying of the big guys out there. We're talking claws, horns, frenzy, juggernaut. It is a monster on the pitch, and I love it for that. But the rest of the team follows suit. Okay, everybody... Asterisk, not quite everybody, but basically everybody has frenzy. So this entire team is built around smashing people and using that clever frenzy multi-block to just maximize the amount of blocks. Now it sounds powerful, but on the downside, everybody has frenzy, okay? So you need to position really well, or you just can't block. Alright, if you take a bad frenzy block, which goes from a good 2-die looking block to a bad 2-die looking block, you're in trouble, because expensive rerolls and a lack of block and stuff like that means that this team goes from being a powerhouse to a failure really quick. Now what we're going to do today is we're going to have a look at setting this team up on the pitch. Whether you are kicking or receiving, we're going to talk through which positionals to put where and why, and kind of some basic game plans for playing against Khorne. Sorry, for playing with Khorne, but to be fair, looking at this setup, if you've got someone who's planning on running Khorne, you've never come across Khorne before, this is going to give you some tips and tricks on the vulnerabilities of this team as well. Anyway, we are in a bit of a Blood Bowl frenzy, so let's go have a look. So Khorne are very interesting, and when it comes to defense, they are even more interesting. You've got two big options here. Now, you've got the Bloodthirster, who you kind of want to be in combat all the time. Now, you can put him in combat or you can leave him in reserve. It's entirely up to you. So the first defense we're going to look at today is not the Chevron Defense. This is the bait defense, okay? That's bait. This is bait too. So this is going to be a useful defense if you're playing against a team that would be considered mid to light. Okay, I was going to say a team that's less bashy than you, but you are Khorne. You have Frenzy, you have some Horns, dude, and you have the Bloodthirster. There are few teams that are truly going to be throwing more block dice than you. But this defense here, it is a trap, okay, for your opponent, and we're going to talk through why, because I love it. Now, if you guys have been following the podcast, you might have known that back in the day, pre-snap, before Blood Bowl transitioned to the passing land that it is now, wink, I farmed a ton of Khorne games. Okay, I just went mad on Blood Bowl 1. In fact, if you've never played Khorne, just go buy Blood Bowl 1 and just play it. Okay, it's probably about $1.99 now, and everybody's calculator can run it. Okay, it's great, just insane fun. Play Khorne, it's just great. Okay, now in 2020, not a lot's changed. Everybody's got Frenzy. You've got two different types of demon positional, both with horns. One has Frenzy, one doesn't have Frenzy. Okay, the Bloodthirsters, Bloodletters don't have Frenzy. The Heralds do have Frenzy. Now, the Bloodthirster is an absolute monster, as we said. It's blitzing around at strength 6 with Juggernaut, Horns and Claw. It's just phenomenal. Now, the bait defense here will be useful for a team that's medium to fast, okay? They're going to want to score quickly, and you can kind of set up some really lovely traps for your opponent, and if you are playing against Khorne, watch out for this. So the bait defense starts off with this little group here of 5, so it is essentially a 3-2-6 defense. You've got 3 on the line, including the Thirster, and 2 linesmen behind it. Now the reason you want to leave these linemen a little bit back is because their tackle zones will block out assists in these squares. So unless your opponent is running a team with strength 5 pieces, they're not getting 2 dice on your Thirster, which means it's relatively safe to put him on the line. Now, what you give up is a little bit of defense here from the Chevron, but that's okay, we'll come to that in a second. So you've got your strength 5 bruiser there. Now, they are potentially going to knock these guys away, but then they're going to have to disengage. Now, we want to block loads, but we want to block loads on our terms. So having these 2 players free up, and having your opponent unable to follow up these blocks here, otherwise they're going to end up just straight up giving you a free frenzy block, and when you've got all these players in reserve, you're going to be able to move up and do a supported frenzy block. You're going to get a free 4-die block, okay? That's 2 for the first block and 2 for the second block. They are going to basically deploy 2 guys here, 2 guys here, and take 2 cheeky 2-die blocks on your normal guys. Now, their strength 3, armor, 9+ linemen? They're going to be fine, and if they follow up, they're going to be in base contact with 2 of your frenzy players. that is fantastic. So what all you're really doing here is putting your Bloodthirster closer to the enemy. They're not even going to base him. So that's one element of this. The second element is, if you look at the way the tackle zones overlap in this defense, so this is just the centerpiece here. So this center unit, that's their tackle zones. And then you've got your two edge groups whose tackle zones line up. No, they don't. They actually overlap here. So if your opponent wants to break through, they are going to have to go and hit these dudes on the edge. Now, I like having the letters, the blood letters at this point, because, well, it's tough, okay? Having the blood letters there without frenzy gives you a little bit of advantage, okay? You can take one block. However, what you can do is swap these two around and have the lineman there. Basically, I'd rather have my frenzy here because your opponent is going to have to tag him. Alright, your opponent is going to have to tag him, and that means you're one assist away from another 4-die block. They are going to come down here. They're going to tag this dude, they're going to tag this dude, and they're going to use those supports to get 2 dice on your letter, knock him out, and then if they want to try and score, they're coming down here. Now what that does is that leaves this herald here completely unencumbered. Okay, these tackle zones of this lineman and this lineman here mean that there is only one way for them to tag your guy, and if they want to do that, that's fine, because you are again going to be netting some unsupported 1-die frenzy blocks, but then all you got to do is move one dude into support and you're going to get 4 block dice against them. Now the key here is, if they want to go down the edge route, that's absolutely fine. If they want to set up a side cage, that's absolutely fine, because strength 4 on the blitz, Mr. Herald here is going to come through here and just delete one of those players from the pitch. Alright, it doesn't even matter. It just doesn't matter. They are going to get on the ball carrier and they are going to remove one of your opponent's players. Now the movement of these guys is 6, so they're fine. So having these two set here is going to mean you've got entire coverage in the backfield with a 4-die frenzy blitz with Juggernaut. Okay, this is fantastic territory for you to be. Like I said, the only thing you can do is swap the blood letters up front and have basically a row of frenzy in the backfield. It doesn't really matter. Okay, it depends who you're playing, and honestly, it just doesn't matter. I do like having a cheeky bit of frenzy up front because they're going to swing here and take him out, but what they're going to do is they're going to tag this dude, and that means you've got a cheeky unsupported frenzy blitz that can leave you pinning another 1 or 2 of their players against the sideline. And that's the game here, okay? That's the goal. Stop them scoring, but if they score and you sweep 4-5 players off the pitch, okay, by their positioning, with your casualties, with your blocks, that's fine, because let them score a touchdown. You are about to receive and then have 6 turns to just play a game of 11 on 7s. Khorne likes that. Khorne likes those numbers, because you know what gets better? More dice when you're frenzy. If you don't need to work very hard to get supports, that's fantastic, because those blocks are just going to turn from 4-die frenzy blocks into 6-die frenzy blocks, and then your opponent simply is not going to have a team left. And you're going to win that game every time. And by the way, by setting up in this formation, we haven't even considered the fact that you do have a blitzer here of monstrous kind of magnitude. So you've got a great pair of strength 4 frenzy blitzers here, and you've got a strength 6 frenzy blitzer in the center. So if your opponent comes down here, you've got a good counter. If your opponent comes here, you've got a great counter. The bait defense just tries to lure your opponent into coming up the middle, allowing you Bloodthirster, or coming up the edges and allowing you a Herald Blitz. It is fantastic and it is great fun to pull off. Now to counter it, I don't even know. Alright, I don't know. If they want to score, they can probably score by using the side cage technique. Coming down here, popping out, and then just getting in there. But it's going to cost them players, and you're going to get the ball back because they are going to need to score because you've got frenzy guys on there. And if you're forcing your opponent to score in a couple of turns, you are going to have way more turns to maim them. And we've got a second alternate deployment here for you, which is the Deep Anchor. So if you are up against a team that is stronger than you, you know what, Chaos Pact, Chaos Renegades is a good team for that. Ogres is another good team for that. Kind of Lizards as well, like big guy versus big guy, you win that battle, but blockers versus blockers, they've got you. Now, when it comes to the Deep Anchor, it's very similar to the standard, but you're dropping your heralds down south. You're keeping your blood letters here kind of safe on the inside. You're sacrificing these 3 linemen, and that's okay. Again, that's fine. That's what they're there for. And you've got this Bloodthirster in reserve. So you've got that you've got that reserve element that we just saw in that other defense, which is Herald to the left, to the right, Bloodthirster to the middle, and you've got Frenzy boys here with your 2 Bloodletters able to just go and support anybody that you want. The Deep Anchor is going to be really useful against Dwarf team, against a Chaos team, against any team that's not going to rush you, but normally would leverage combat ability, because these guys are going to fall back. And at that point, what happens is you end up having 6 Frenzy players and 3 mobile players, okay? One good blitz with that Bloodthirster is going to be 2 to 3 Frenzy dice, okay? That should clear space for you to then start stacking other assists with your 2 Bloodletters here to really kind of just drive home the numbers. And every 2-die block when you are frenzied, if you frenzy correctly, turns into 4 dice. And that starts to really snowball on your opponent. Even Amazons with their cheeky blodge eventually are going to suffer some pows when you're rolling 4 to 6 dice per block on a single player and you're moving them in. If you can envelop your opponent in a frenzy cage, they are going to die. There is no way out of it. None at all. None. But very quickly, Khorne can set up in the standard Chevron defense. If you really do need to stop your opponent from scoring, you can stagger you like this, okay? The vulnerability will be straight down the middle, but you've got Bloodthirster here on one side and 2 Heralds on the other side, okay? That gives you some really strong frenzy counters. The other thing you can do if you're not playing against an opponent that also has frenzy is you can stack these guys into a column defense, which means that you're not going to have your Heralds here or your Bloodthirster able to be tagged, and it's going to force them to come down the middle. Bringing them down the middle here allows you to just absolutely group foul them. Blitzing with the Bloodthirster with 1 support against a strength 3 player is a 6-die frenzy block. That is good times. So anytime you can get that 1 support with your Bloodthirster against a strength 3 target, basically is deletion. Now, Khorne's an interesting team on offense, okay? You don't want to score too quickly. What you want to do is use your numbers to maximize those frenzy blocks. I feel like I've said that a million times, but that is really the game plan here, okay? You want to use your numbers to get 4-6 dice per block. Now, the 5-4-1-1 offense gives you so much in this way. So 2 Bloodletters in the backfield, north and south of the point, north and south of the sweet spot, is going to give you 6 squares of coverage each way, which means that wherever the ball lands, you're going to have 2 people on it, okay? Move 1 down to protect it, and the second one down to collect it at the end of the turn. Move protect first, then you can look at playing murder games. Now, the cool thing here about this one is I know that your linemen are a little bit slower, but having this build here gives you a great screen. So move to protect the ball once, and then you can start opening up with some really positive blocks. And if it goes wrong, as long as you're alternating your blocks and maintaining these basically barriers of tackle zones, you are protected. So you protect the ball here, you take some blocks, it goes wrong, because sometimes it goes wrong, your opponent is going to have to successfully blitz through your players to even get access to the ball. And if they do that, what they're going to be doing is stretching their defense, and then they're going to be playing a game of potentially 2 to 3 players against 4 in your backfield. That's bad because of frenzy. And what do you do with frenzy? Throw lots of dice. So on this choice here, you've got the Heralds out wide. Now, the reason you've got the Heralds out wide is they are giving that support for somebody who's already got frenzy, and it leaves you basically tight ends that can go off and blitz on their own if you want with strength 4. Best thing to do, support them, counter opponent's support, blitz in with that strength 4 because of horns, and it's going to be 2 dice, goodbye player. Now, you've got the Thirster here, so realistically what you should do is take a cheeky block with the Thirster and clear out. The reason for that is you've got 5 strength, okay? Assuming these are strength 3 muggles, you're going to push 1 up and then drop him down up there. Your Bloodthirster is going to be right in the battle here. And then you've got a couple of options. At that point, you can go for a Herald Blitz that's supported. It's going to be down to you to manage. You can bring somebody up to play extra support, but what you want to do is farm as many blocks, farm as much frenzy as possible. You could even go one way. So if the ball ends up this way, you can go Bloodthirster this way, and then you can go Lineman this way using supports, and Herald this way using supports, and just pass them along, taking 4 to 6 block dice every single time. You should end up with those guys at least stunned and out of the picture. That's going to give you the numbers. Then, the beautiful thing about Khorne is feel free, unless you're under time pressure, to let your opponent then counter-strike, because they are going to have to base your players. They are going to have to engage your players, and every time they leave a dude in base contact with almost any one of your players, you're probably 1 or 2 supports away from having really profitable frenzy blocks. Now you don't have block, but when you are rolling 2-die blocks, you've got a good chance of surviving, so it doesn't feel the worst thing in the world. And the Thirster, if it's going to be blitzing around, is going to have jugs like the Herald, so you're going to pull it off almost every time. It's going to save you from that cheeky both down. So the 5-4-1-1 gives you everything you want to do, okay? 1 to collect, 1 to protect, and then you've got 2 wings here that you can either leave to play this screen game, or you can bring 1 down to protect the ball and use these guys as a way to just support blitzes and just make maybe 1-die blocks into 2-die frenzy blocks and 2-die frenzy blocks into the cheeky 3-die frenzy block, the 6-die block. That is the main reason you're running this team. I love this team. It plays very differently than every other, and it is just, it's like goblins that can hurt things. Alright, it's goblins with strength, because if you roll high, you're going to delete your opponent. If you roll low, you're going to delete yourself. It's great fun. Anyway guys, thank you ever so much for watching. Please let me know what you think of the Khorne team in 2020. I want Games Workshop to pick it up and make it proper. The Bloodthirster is one of my favourite positionals, but the fact it is a Bloodthirster doesn't really make sense. Just a big demon of Khorne would be fine. But when I have Frenzy, it's just great fun. Try it out. Get Blood Bowl 1, give it a go, take it to the pitch. We had 2 Khorne teams at Bonehead Bowl, and they were both awesome fun to see. Saw a Bloodthirster touchdown with a cheeky 5+ pickup. Magic. Absolute magic. Anyway, it's very hot, so I'm going to run away and hide from the sun, and we'll be back soon with more Blood Bowl content. Happy Frenzy 6-die blocking. Thanks very much for watching. We really appreciate your support. If you want to support the show even further, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. Or come and join us in our Patreon, link below, where you get early access to our content and monthly competitions. See you later.